drank cinnamon tea for 30 days, and this happened. I quit coffee for 30 days and replaced it with this. The results were not what I expected. My energy, my blood sugar, and even my focus completely changed. For 1 month, I swapped my morning coffee for a simple cup of cinnamon tea. Honestly, I figured I knew what would happen. A little less energy, maybe a slightly better mood. I was wrong. What started as a casual experiment revealed things about my body I never saw coming. My entire energy pattern was transformed. The way I processed food shifted, and my ability to concentrate was altered in a fundamental way. Here's exactly what went down. This journey was about more than just a warm drink. It was about trying to reclaim my energy and understand my body from the inside out. So, if you've ever felt like you're running on fumes, or you're just curious what a small change can really do, you need to see this. The before, the problem. So, let's set the stage. For as long as I can remember, my relationship with energy has been complicated. It felt like I was living in a state of constant, low-grade exhaustion, with short, caffeine-fueled bursts of productivity. My day didn't start with a gentle awakening. It started with a jolt. The alarm would go off, and my first real thought was always coffee. It wasn't just a want. It felt like a biological need. Without it, a thick fog would settle over my brain, making even simple tasks feel impossible. That first cup was pure survival. It was what? Let me face my inbox, form coherent sentences, and feel basically human. But it was a bad deal. That initial surge of focus would always give way to a jittery, anxious energy by late morning. My heart would pound a little too hard. My thoughts would race, but not always in a useful direction. I was moving fast, but was I actually getting anywhere? And then came the crash. Around doors or 3 in the afternoon, it would hit me like a ton of bricks. A wave of fatigue so deep I had to just stare at my computer screen, the words blurring together, my motivation gone. This was the dreaded afternoon slump, and my solution was, you guessed it, more coffee. I knew it was a terrible idea. It meant I'd be wired but tired by evening, struggling to wind down, which led to restless nights. It was a vicious cycle. Poor sleep made me need more coffee, and more coffee destroyed my sleep. I was constantly fighting this energy roller coaster, and it was taking a toll. My focus was fragmented. I'd start a task super focused, only to find my attention splintering an hour later. It felt like I was just lurching from one caffeine hit to the next to stay functional. I was productive, sure, but it felt frantic and unsustainable. There was this constant, low hum of anxiety that I just accepted as normal. On top of the energy issues, I just felt off. I had this nagging feeling my body wasn't working right. I'd get tired after meals, especially carb-heavy ones. I'd crave sugary snacks in the afternoon, which was just my body's desperate attempt to find fuel to fight the caffeine crash. It all pointed to a system that was out of balance, propped up by a stimulant that was both my crutch and my captor. So, I decided I need a real change. I started looking into natural ways to support energy, and that's when I stumbled upon cinnamon. I'd heard about its benefits, but as I looked closer, I was fascinated by the science. The big idea I kept seeing was its potential to help regulate blood sugar. The theory is that it works in a couple of ways. First, some research suggests it can slow the breakdown of carbohydrates in your gut. Second, some compounds in cinnamon may help improve your body's own insulin sensitivity, making it easier for your cells to absorb sugar from your bloodstream. This was my light bulb moment. Could my energy roller coaster be tied to my blood sugar? The post-meal slumps, the afternoon cravings, it all started to click. Maybe my coffee habit was just a band-aid for a deeper metabolic issue. The idea of using something as simple as cinnamon tea to address this felt revolutionary. The research was really intriguing. Some studies suggest cinnamon can help lower fasting blood sugar levels. It's also packed with antioxidants that protect your cells from damage. There's even some early research hinting that it might reduce inflammation and support heart health. The premise of my experiment was born. What if I could stabilize my energy by stabilizing my blood sugar? What if I could get sustained focused without the jitters and the crash? I decided to commit to a 30-day challenge, no more coffee, replaced by a morning cup of cinnamon tea. The rules were simple. No coffee, no espresso, not even decaf. My first drink every day would be cinnamon tea. To track the effects, I kept a daily journal, rating my energy, focus, and mood. I also noted food cravings and sleep quality. And to get some objective data, I decided to wear a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, to see what was really happening with my blood sugar. This wasn't just about quitting coffee. It was about running a personal N=1 experiment on myself. I was skeptical but hopeful. I was tired of being tired, and I was ready to see if I could find a better way. The journey. Week 1, day 1, started with a dull headache throbbing behind my eyes. The familiar, comforting smell of coffee was gone, leaving a huge hole in my morning routine. Instead, I stood over my stove, boiling water, and dropping in a cinnamon stick, feeling like a total imposter. The tea itself was a nice reddish-brown color, and its sweet, spicy aroma reminded me more of Christmas than a morning kickstart. That first sip was fine. It was pleasant and warm, but it had none of the aggressive, bitter punch my brain was screaming for. It was subtle. It was denal. And a part of me was massively disappointed. Where was the jolt? I drank the whole mug, but the fog in my brain just sat there. That headache, a classic sign of caffeine withdrawal, was my constant companion for the first 3 days. It was a nagging pain that made focusing on anything a nightmare. My journal entries from those first few days are just sad. Energy, 2/10. Focus, 1/10. Mood, grumpy. I was exhausted, irritable, and so sluggish. I was craving sugar like crazy, my body looking for any quick fix to replace the missing caffeine. It was a brutal reminder of how dependent I'd become. Before I started, though, I did some important research. It turns out, not all cinnamon is the same. There are 2 main types, Casa and Ceylon. Most of what you find in the grocery store is Casa. It's cheap and has a strong, spicy flavor. The problem is, Casa cinnamon contains a compound called high-dose coumarin, has been linked to potential liver issues. Just a teaspoon or 2 of cassia powder a day could put you over the recommended daily limit. Then there's Ceylon cinnamon, often called true cinnamon. It's lighter in color, has a more delicate, sweet flavor. And most importantly, it has only tiny amounts of coumarin, making it much safer for regular use. Since I was going to drink this every day, the choice was a no-brainer. I got some high-quality organic Ceylon cinnamon sticks. Yes, they were more expensive, but the peace of mind was worth it. By day 4, something started to shift. I woke up, and for the first time, my head wasn't pounding. The brain fog felt less dense, more like a light mist. Imagine my tea and this chimi. I actually enjoyed the ritual. The warm, sweet scent felt calming instead of weak. The flavor was growing on me. I started adding a slice of ginger, which gave it a nice, zesty kick. The biggest thing I noticed in that first week was the change in my energy quality. The frantic, jittery buzz from coffee was gone. In its place was, well, nothing. Just a flat, low-level state of being. But after the withdrawal, headaches faded, that nothing started to feel more like calm. I wasn't buzzing, but I also wasn't anxious. My heart wasn't racing. My thoughts felt slower, but also clearer. For so long, I had equated focus with speed and intensity, so this calm state felt unproductive at first. My CGM data from week 1 was fascinating. On coffee, even though I drank it, my mornings were a mess of glucose spikes and valleys, likely from the cortisol release and the food choices that followed after switching to cinnamon tea. That chaotic chart started to smooth out. The spiky mountains were becoming rolling hills. Some studies show that cinnamon can help lower the blood glucose response after a meal, and I was seeing the first hints of that in my own data. By day 7, I was starting to feel stable. I wasn't getting the euphoric highs of an espresso, but I also wasn't getting the devastating afternoon crashes. My energy was lower overall, but it was consistent. The afternoon slump, a daily fixture for years, was already less severe. It was a gentle slope now, not a cliff dive. Week 1 was tough, but it taught me that focus doesn't have to be frantic and energy doesn't have to come with anxiety. I ended the week feeling not energized, but balanced. And I was actually excited to see what week 2 would bring. The journey, week 2, and the turn week 2 began with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. The morning headaches were gone, and the desperate cravings for coffee had vanished. I was waking up feeling more rested, probably because I'd cut out the afternoon coffee that used to mess with my sleep. My morning tea ritual wasn't a chore anymore. It was a genuinely mindful, enjoyable start to the day. This is where the whole experiment turned a corner. Week 1 was about surviving withdrawal. Week 2 was about discovery. The most shocking change was my afternoon energy. That 3 p.m. slump wasn't just a problem. It was something I planned my entire life around. But in week 2, it just disappeared. Gone. Vanished. Around 2:30 or 3 p.m., when I'd normally be fighting to keep my eyes open, I found myself just working. My focus was steady. My energy was stable. There was no slump. I vividly remember the first day it happened. I was deep into a project, and I suddenly looked at the clock. It was for 15 p.m. I had worked straight through the slump zone without even noticing. I hadn't felt tired, I hadn't felt foggy, and I hadn't craved a single sugary snack. I just felt normal. It was so weird that I had to stop and write it down. Energy, a steady 7/10 all day. Focus, 8/10. Mood, calm and productive. It felt like a superpower. This was the turn. The absence of the crash was a way bigger deal than the absence of the morning jolt. Consistent, stable energy all day long was a much better prize than the fleeting, jittery high coffee gave me. I was trading a rocket launch and a crash landing for a smooth, all-day flight at a comfortable altitude. It was a trade I was more than happy to make. My CGM data backed up what I was feeling. The rolling hills from week 1 flattened out even more. The key was what happened after lunch. Before, my post-lunch glucose levels would often dip, leading to fatigue. Now, with the cinnamon tea, they were remarkably stable. My personal data seemed to line up with what some clinical trials have shown. Cinnamon can help lower the maximum glucose concentration after a meal. It was acting like a buffer, smoothing out my day. This stability changed everything. My appetite became more regulated. Those afternoon sugar cravings were gone because the trigger of blood sugar crash was gone. My focus also got deeper. Without the constant buzz of caffeine anxiety, I could sink into tasks for longer. My work felt less like a sprint and more like a steady marathon. During this week, I experimented more with my tea. For ground cinnamon, you should stir it into hot water and let it steep for about 5 minutes. 4 sticks, simmering them for 10 to 15 minutes, extracts more flavor. I stuck with my Ceylon sticks, usually 2 in a big mug, sometimes with ginger or star anise. I always kept it unsweetened. The science behind this is pretty cool. Cinnamon is loaded with powerful antioxidants called polyphenols. In studies comparing different spices, cinnamon consistently ranks near the top, even beating out superfoods like garlic and oregano. These antioxidants fight oxidative stress, which is a key driver of aging. Also, compounds in cinnamon have shown strong anti-inflammatory properties, and since chronic inflammation is at the root of so many health problems, that felt like a huge win. Week 2 was the turning point. The benefits stopped being theoretical and became my daily reality. The initial struggle was worth it for this new kind of energia.com/stable, sustainable energy that lasted all day. The data from my glucose monitor was a visual confirmation of the incredible transformation happening inside my body. I was no longer a slave to the spike and crash cycle. I was finally in control. The journey, weeks 3 and 4. By week 3, the cinnamon tea ritual was totally ingrained in my daily life. It wasn't an experiment anymore. It was just how I started my day. The muscle memory was there. Fill the kettle, grab the Ceylon sticks. The smell of the brewing tea was my new signal for the workday to begin, a signal of calm focus, not frantic energy. Weeks 3 and 4 were about seeing if this new reality would stick. The novelty was gone, and what was left was a new, stable baseline. The consistent energy I found in week 2 became my new normal. Day after day, my journal showed an amazing consistency. Energy, a solid 7 or 8 out of 10, all day long. This sustained focus made me curious about what else was going on, while blood sugar was the obvious answer. I found a growing body of research on cinnamon's potential effects on the brain. Now, it's important to say that most of this research is in early stages, think animal or lab studies, so we can't make definitive claims for humans yet, but some studies suggest that compounds in cinnamon could have neuroprotective benefits, possibly helping to protect brain cells. One review of 40 different studies, mostly preclinical, hinted that cinnamon might improve cognitive function, particularly memory. I'm not saying the tea made me a genius, but I felt like my memory was sharper and my ability to learn new things for my work seemed to be better. The physical changes also continued. My digestion, which was always a bit unpredictable, settled down. The bloating I used to get was gone. This might just be from dropping the acidic coffee, but cinnamon itself has been used in traditional medicine to help digestion. Another surprising change was my weight. I hadn't changed my diet or exercise, but I felt leaner. I stepped on the scale at the end of the month and saw I had lost about 4 pounds. This isn't a magic weight loss solution, and my result could be due to a lot of factors, but the science does offer a possible link by helping improve insulin sensitivity and regulate blood sugar. Cinnamon may help the body avoid storing excess fat and can reduce the cravings for sugary foods that mess up weight management goals. For me, it was an unexpected bonus. During these final weeks, I became a full-on cinnamon tea evangelist. I was making it for my partner, bringing my Salon sticks to cafes, and talking about it to anyone who would listen. The distinction between cassia and Ceylon became a crucial tip I shared. For anyone thinking of doing this long-term, investing in true Ceylon cinnamon is a smart, non-negotiable safety step. As the 30-day mark approached, I looked back on the journey. Week 1 was withdrawal. Week 2 was a revelation. And weeks 3 and 4 were about locking in that new reality. My sleep quality had improved dramatically. Without afternoon caffeine, I was falling asleep faster and waking up feeling refreshed. My skin even looked clearer. This experiment had rewired my entire operating system. I used to believe that high achievement required high intensity, stimulant-fueled energy. This 30-day journey proved that completely wrong. I learned that calm, steady, and focused is a much more powerful and sustainable way to live. To reveal the results after 30 days, the experiment was done. It was time to lay out the data, compare the before me with the after me, and see what really changed. The results weren't just positive. They were transformative. Let's start with the most objective data. My blood sugar, my continuous glucose monitor was the unbiased observer, and its data was pretty staggering. Before, on coffee, my daily glucose chart looked like a volatile stock market report. It had sharp peaks after meals and reactive dips in the afternoon. My average glucose was fine, but the variability was high, a jagged, anxious line that perfectly mirrored how I felt. After 30 days of cinnamon tea, the chart was almost unrecognizable. The jagged peaks had smoothed into gentle waves. The deep afternoon valleys were filled in. My glucose variability dropped significantly, showing that the tea was having a profound effect on my blood sugar response after eating. This lines up with what the science suggests. Some meta-analyses of clinical trials have found a link between cinnamon consumption and lower fasting glucose. The idea is that it can help improve insulin sensitivity, a key hormone for managing energy. By supporting my body's own insulin, the tea helped prevent the dramatic sugar spikes and crashes that had been running my life. Next, let's look at my journal. Energy. Before, my energy was a roller coaster. It would shoot up to an 8 or 9 after coffee, then crash to a 2 or 3 in the afternoon. After 30 days, my energy chart was a picture of stability. It would start around a 6 and climb to a steady 7 or 8, where it would stay all day. No afternoon slump. The feeling wasn't being stimulated, but being properly fueled. Focus. My focus on coffee was intense, but short-lived, and came with anxiety. I'd rate it a 9/10 for an hour, but then it would fall apart. With cinnamon tea, my focus was calmer and deeper. I consistently rated it an 8/10 throughout the day. I could sink into a task without the distracting mental chatter or physical jitters. This anecdotally aligns with the emerging, though still early, research into cinnamon and cognitive function. Other unexpected results. Wait, as I mentioned, I lost 4 pounds without really trying. This was likely a side effect of better metabolic health and fewer cravings. Heart health! While I didn't do blood work for this challenge, the existing science is encouraging. Multiple reviews have suggested a link between cinnamon intake and improvements in cholesterol and triglycerides. Some studies lasting at least 8 weeks have even shown a reduction in blood pressure. Seeing that research makes me feel like this new habit is a great long-term investment in my health. Sleep quality. This was a huge quality of life upgrade by cutting out afternoon caffeine. I was sleeping so much better. My sleep tracker showed more deep sleep and less restlessness. I was waking up, feeling restored, not exhausted, reduced anxiety. The constant hum of anxiety I had just accepted as my personality simply faded. Switching from a high-strung caffeine-driven state to a calm, tea-fueled one was profound. The big reveal is this. I started this experiment to solve an energy problem. I thought I'd be trading the highs of coffee for a more level, but lower state. I was wrong. I didn't just find a substitute for coffee, I found something far better. I found a way to have sustained, clean energy all day. I found deep focus without the anxiety. I discovered the key to my energy wasn't more stimulation, but better regulation. The cinnamon tea didn't give me energy. It helped my body manage its own energy more efficiently. This journey has been incredibly revealing, and it all started with a simple question about my energy. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever struggled with the coffee roller coaster or the afternoon slump? Let me know in the comments what you've tried, what's worked, and what hasn't. Your experience could seriously help someone else in this community. And if you found this experiment interesting and want to see more deep dives into health, productivity, and personal science, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. I've got more experiments planned, and I'd love for you to come along for the ride. So, was it worth it? Trading my beloved morning coffee for a simple cup of cinnamon tea for 30 days? Absolutely yes. But the reason is so much deeper than I expected. I went into this trying to fix the problem. I was tired all the time and stuck in a caffeine trap. I thought cinnamon tea might be a slightly healthier option. What I discovered is that I wasn't just treating a symptom, I was addressing a root cause. My problem wasn't a lack of stimulation, it was a lack of regulation. My body's energy system was out of whack, and coffee was just a patch that was making things worse. Cinnamon tea, by helping to stabilize my blood sugar, fundamentally repaired that system. The result wasn't a life with less energy, but a life with better energy. It's a calm, steady, reliable energy that doesn't cost you anxiety, jitters, or a massive crash. It's the kind of energy that allows for deep, sustained focus. Now, this was my personal experience. And while it's backed up by some interesting science, everyone is different. Cinnamon tea is a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet. It should be part of a healthy lifestyle, not a replacement for medical advice, especially for those with conditions like diabetes. And like we talked about, the type of cinnamon you use really matters. If you're going to make this a daily thing, choosing Locamore and Ceylon cinnamon is a crucial safety step. This 30-day journey taught me that sometimes the most powerful changes come from the simplest practices. We're always looking for the next big thing, the strongest coffee, the latest biohacking gadget, but this proved to me that sometimes the best path is to work with your body, not against it, to gently guide it back to balance. I haven't had a cup of coffee since I started this, and I honestly don't miss it. I found something so much better. I've reclaimed my afternoons. I've divorced my focus from anxiety. I sleep better, I feel calmer, and my mind is clearer. All from a simple, fragrant cup of tea. It wasn't about the absence of coffee. It was about the presence of balance. And that has made all the difference.